At the wedding scene, my boyfriend stripped off my wedding dress and gave it to his mistress to wear. He locked me in the dressing room. Yara has a terminal illness and wants to experience being a bride before she dies. He removed the wedding dress I was wearing and put it on his childhood sweetheart. I struggled fiercely in resistance, but all I heard was that famous line, "She's about to die, how can you lack even this bit of compassion? You've only lost a wedding, but Yara is losing her dreams and her life." When Ethan entered, I was lowering my head to adjust the hem of my dress, preparing to go on stage. "Sophie, Seeing him hesitate, I thought he had pre-wedding jitters. I slowly walked over, held Ethan's hand, and teased him. "How come the groom is more nervous than the bride? You won't get so emotional that you'll cry later, will you?" But this time Ethan didn't joke around with me as usual. His black suit outlined his tall figure, carrying an inexplicable somber aura. "What's wrong? Did something happen at the wedding venue?" As I said this, I started to walk out, but Ethan grabbed my wrist. After seeming to ponder for a long time, he finally met my eyes. "Sophie, Yara has a terminal illness." I was stunned. Yara, Ethan's childhood sweetheart. When I was pursuing Ethan, she often used their long-standing friendship to trip me up. I could tell she liked Ethan a lot, but I was dissatisfied with others coveting my boyfriend. Yet every time I mentioned this to Ethan, he looked helpless. "I only see her as a sister." It wasn't until my birthday this year, when Ethan proposed to me, that Yara faded out of our lives. "Yara has a terminal illness?" I looked up at Ethan, somewhat puzzled. "But that doesn't mean you have to go to the hospital to see her now, does it? The wedding is in 10 minutes. The man interrupted me, looking urgent. "Yara has already come," she said. "What did she say?" "She said she's never been in love in her life and wants to experience being a bride before she passes away." Ethan's eyes were full of sorrow for Yara's plight, and even his speech became cautious. I felt speechless and found a chair to sit down. "She won't make you elope now and go to a wedding dress shop to pick one for her, will she?" Ethan shook his head. I finally breathed a sigh of relief. Just as I was about to sigh that the little green tea had turned over a new leaf, Ethan's words struck me like thunder, leaving me scorched outside and tender inside. "It's too late to go outside, Sophie, why not lend your wedding dress to Yara to wear?" I looked up at Ethan in shock, seriously suspecting he was possessed by idiocy. My tone involuntarily cooled. "What, can't she live until tomorrow? Or have all the wedding dress shops outside gone bankrupt, so there's not a single one in all of a city that she can wear?" "Sophie." Ethan's face darkened, his gaze so cold that my heart ached for a moment. "Yara is already so pitiful, why do you have to curse her?" I was so angry I laughed, standing up to argue with him. "Ethan, has your head been caught in a door? If she has a terminal illness, will wearing my wedding dress cure her? How is my wedding dress a panacea? More effective than doctors? Allowing her to skip treatment and ascend to heaven right here? Yara has always loved using these tricks to send you away. I tolerated it before, but today is our wedding day. Do you understand the word marriage?" Overwhelmed by emotions, my chest heaved violently as I spoke. But Ethan not only didn't wake up from the scolding, his face sank further. "Sophie, I never expected you to be such a black-hearted person." His gaze was as if looking at trash, tightly choking the words I wanted to say. "Brother Ethan." As we were in a standoff, the dressing room door was pushed open. Yara had her hair down, tears in her eyes, and her plain long dress made her face look even paler. "Don't argue with Sister Sophie because of me, it's all my fault, blame me for getting sick and not dying immediately," still thinking. "Yara." Ethan gently covered her mouth, the heartache in his eyes about to overflow. "Don't be afraid, today, no matter who it is, no one can stop me from helping you fulfill your wish." With that, he turned and walked toward me. Before I could recover from Yara's provocative gaze, I was enveloped by Ethan's tall figure. "Sophie, I advise you to be kind. What if I say no?" Seeing my firm attitude, Ethan was silent for a moment. Then, he turned, pulled Yara out. Just as I thought he had some regret, he came back in, then locked the door from inside. Sophie, don't blame me. Ethan approached me step by step. Realizing something was wrong, I stood up to run, but the man gripped my wrist. He turned me around and pressed me against the dressing table, reaching to pull the wedding dress zipper. Are you crazy? Ethan, let me go. Intense struggling didn't earn even a shred of mercy from the man. The soft flesh at my waist was gripped until it hurt. Until the zipper drew a red mark on my body, the pain made tears stream out. Only then did Ethan stop. He panted, holding the wedding dress stripped from me, his tone reproachful. Does it hurt? You asked for it. I covered my naked body, curling on the ground, my carefully pinned hair disheveled, covering the last shred of dignity. The cold air from the AC seemed to blow into my heart. The Phoenix man who usurped the life-saving grace was exposed. Looking up, I met Ethan's impassive eyes. I enunciated each word, Ethan, we're completely over. My voice wasn't loud, carrying a sob. But the man thought I was threatening, irritably turning and striding out. Don't make a fuss, I'll make up the wedding to you. But today, Yara's dream must be fulfilled. The man's figure gradually disappeared from my blurred vision. Along with it, a certain place in my heart became empty. Until I heard a click, I suddenly stood up, realizing. He was afraid I'd go out and cause trouble, so he locked the door from outside. Self-mockingly picking up the white t-shirt on the chair, I laughed while trying to put it on. But the collar was too small, I couldn't get through, suffocating me into continuous crying. Tisk, so disheveled? Following the voice, I dazedly looked up. Perhaps my makeup was ruined by crying. At this moment, I looked like a devil. The man's body visibly stiffened, suppressing the mockery at his lips. Do you want to get revenge? My eyes lit up, but I was puzzled. How are you here? Julian, Ethan's business rival. It said they were good buddies in university, but something happened later, turning them into enemies. I don't remember inviting Mr. He. Questioned, Julian wasn't angry. Instead, he raised an eyebrow, smiled, and walked toward me. His long legs wrapped in tight white suit pants, broad shoulders, narrow waist, hair impeccably styled. Paired with an impeccable face. Those who didn't know might think he was today's groom. Sure you don't want to come with me? Once you miss this chance, it's gone. The man extended his hand. Without waiting for me to think, he directly pulled me up from the ground. After wiping with a handkerchief, the man nodded satisfied. Let's go, revenge should be taken on the spot, holding it in only wrongs yourself. My wrist was gripped. The warmth in Julian's palm, like his back, inexplicably made one feel reliable. Groom Mr. Ethan, for richer or poorer, are you willing to stay by the bride's side, never leaving? On stage, the host recited the vows. Ethan looked at Yara, his eyes full of tender pity. I do not. The abrupt voice rang out. All eyes in the venue shifted to me. I clearly saw the smile in Ethan's brows freeze. Facing Yara's furious gaze, I took the microphone Julian handed me and stepped onto the red carpet that should have been mine. Where's security? Ethan frowned. Drag the troublemaker down. I sneered coldly, turning the microphone volume to maximum. Everyone, I am Sophie, the bride Sophie. The guests were in an uproar. The sounds of flipping through invitations made Ethan's face completely dark. Hey, yes, doesn't it say the bride is Sophie on this? Then who's the woman on stage? Who knows, Mr. Ethan's wedding was so rushed, I've never seen the bride before. Various scrutinies made Yara's eyes red. Everyone, there's a typo on the invitation, Ethan pulled Yara's hand. The real bride is here. Such a clumsy excuse naturally convinced no one. But since he was Mr. Ethan, the discussions gradually quieted. But my dignity was rubbed on the ground, I had to vent this anger. The wedding dress has my name embroidered on it, and even the venue, photography, layout, all funded by me. Mr. Ethan says the bride is her. Fine. I smiled, pulled up the phone bill and projected it on the big screen. The cost is 13.14 million, Mr. Ethan, transfer or cash? The man's face completely cooled, his gaze scanning the door. Don't look, the security's money was also paid by me, they don't recognize you. Ethan irritably tugged at his tie. But Yara, this idiot, fearing the drama wasn't big enough, started causing trouble again. Sister Sophie, I know you have opinions about me. She cried as she approached me. Borrowing your wedding was my fault, but I have a terminal illness. Brother Ethan did this just to help me fulfill my dream, you can't blame him. As she spoke, she glanced at the guests' attitudes with her peripheral vision. Sure enough, some started cursing me for lacking compassion. Slapping away Yara's hand grabbing me, I went face to face. Oh, terminal illness? What's the name of the disease? Which hospital diagnosed you? How did I not know that a dying person's skin could be thicker than a city wall, robbing someone's $1 million wedding dress so righteously? Yara was choked by me and retreated, coughing until her little face was pale. Ethan immediately came to block in front of her. Sophie. He viciously shouted my name. You've only lost a wedding, Yara is losing her life. Arguing with a dying person, are you so lacking in compassion? This speech truly disgusted me. I carefully scrutinized Ethan. He was still as handsome as ever, but now I felt he was like a moldy cotton jacket. Fine, Mr. Ethan is deeply affectionate. I'll fulfill you too. Yara breathed a sigh of relief. How to settle the bill? I pulled up the payment code. Over 10 million, this burial gift from Mr. Ethan is really expensive. You're cursing me? Yara shrieked, glaring at me. What, am I wrong? Oh yes, forgot to send you a bunch of white chrysanthemums. Just as Yara was so angry she could hardly keep up the act, Ethan pulled out a bank card from his pocket, threw it on the ground, and said coldly. Take your money and leave. Don't think about rescheduling the wedding. The triumph in Yara's eyes was more glaring than the diamonds encrusted on the wedding dress hem. Looking at Ethan again. Our eyes met, leaving only disappointment. Until I got into Julian's car, I was still in a daze. Tell me, what do you want? Helping me for no reason must have ulterior motives. Who knew? The man just sighed, then drove to the boxing gym. You're making me your punching bag? I looked incredulously at Julian, who had changed and stood before me. Broad shoulders, narrow waist, the thin tight outfit faintly outlining his abs. I slightly turned my head away. Don't dare? How could I not? I can't stand provocation the most, immediately put on gloves, and started fighting. Sweat flowed freely. In a moment of impulse, taking advantage of the man's unpreparedness, I angrily punched his face. When Julian closed his eyes and wailed, I suddenly sobered. I quickly stepped forward, pulled his hand away to check. Sorry. It was me imagining him as Ethan. Hiss. The man leaned against the railing, raised an eyebrow, and gave me a roguish look. Does this count as a work injury? Julian's eyes held laughter, completely without the cold decisiveness in business. The contrast was too great, I was suddenly mesmerized. When I reacted, my hand had unconsciously touched his eye corner. Noticing the obscure emotions in Julian's eyes, I retracted my hand as if electrocuted. I was just worried that if I blinded you, I'd have to compensate. Julian chuckled lightly, his gaze lingering on my eyes for a long time. But someone was blind in eyes and heart, making me wait 4 years. How should this compensation be calculated? Breaths intertwined, the atmosphere ambiguous. Until the girl in his eyes blushed thoroughly, Julian straightened up. Coward. The tone was helpless yet indulgent, making me suddenly dazed. This nickname inexplicably overlapped with that night 4 years ago. In midsummer, cicadas chirped. In the bridal chamber, looking at the carefully designed furniture pieces, a sour feeling surged in my heart. It had been a day since I packed Ethan's luggage and sent it to his company. I finally saw him again. No, what do you mean by this? The man blocked the door, his brows full of irritation. Good timing, take the trash away, then go to the Civil Affairs Bureau. I threw the wedding photo on the ground, clutching 2 red books in my hand. Enough! Ethan suddenly roared, taking a long stride, forcing me to the entrance. I've given you the position of Mrs. Ethan, I just helped Yara with a small favor, is it necessary to make it like this? Small favor? I sneered, pulling his tie. What kind of sister needs Mr. Ethan to help in bed? Mistress? Ethan panicked because I pulled out my phone and took evidence of his cheating. Delete the photos, don't force me to be rude to you. The vicious threat was far less chilling than the hickey on his neck. Together for 4 years, I always wanted to save my first time for the wedding night. But now, the groom is dirty. Ethan, who gave you the confidence to think I'd accept second-hand goods? I looked at him coldly, enunciating each word. Don't take my love for granted. I, Sophie, have never been dependent on anyone. Seeing my firm attitude, Ethan suddenly lowered his stance. Sophie, I know you're angry that I occupied your wedding. How about this, when Yara recovers, I'll take you to the Maldives for a makeup wedding. I was so angry I laughed, suddenly feeling Julian was right. I was indeed blind before, otherwise, how could I fall for such a thing? Don't disgust people here, hurry, while the Civil Affairs Bureau hasn't closed, get this divorce done, you and your childhood sweetheart can live happily ever after. Ethan was so angry his brows throbbed, gritting his teeth and shaking his head. Fine, you're tough. Divorce is okay, return the card to me. No, are you sick? I looked at him like an idiot, the whole wedding was paid by me, you want to please Yara, why should I be the sucker? Sophie. Ethan almost squeezed my name from his throat. You're an orphan, no proper job, besides me, where do you get millions from? The contempt in the man's eyes was unmasked, looking at me like a gold digger. Yes, I am indeed an orphan. But in university, I started an online business, founded my own company with outstanding design skills. Just that all business was online. Seeing I wasn't angry but puzzledly scrutinizing him. Ethan frowned, his expression mocking. What, can't bear to part with my money, don't want to divorce? No, not right. I clearly told Ethan I have my own company. But seeing his reaction. The abrupt phone ring interrupted my thoughts. Sophie, the house in Yunmingport is settled, I'll pick you up to see it. Julian's magnetic voice came through the receiver. You dare to cheat? Ethan jumped in rage, good, you shameless woman, climbed a higher branch and want to kick me away? Dream on. Ethan acted like he caught my handle, emotionally agitated, outputting a barrage. Although we've quarreled countless times since being together, none made me feel he was so unreasonable. Did he hit you? Julian's face darkened, his gaze cold as if to kill. Oh, no, the blood is that scumbag's. I disdainfully took off my coat and threw it in the trash. Julian's expression eased. Only then did I notice his forehead full of sweat, even speaking a bit breathlessly. 10 minutes ago, Ethan, seeing I didn't listen to his lecture, blabbered and wanted to hit me. But he seemed to forget, Taekwondo max level. He was kicked down by me, sat on a broken vase, clutching his butt in pain and wailing. Want to take my money to support a gigolo? Impossible in this lifetime. Ethan threatened viciously before leaving. Thinking we're still in the same red book, I couldn't help feeling nauseous. Your face looks so bad, maybe the house thing another day. Julian looked at me worriedly, swept away the glass shards beside me with a broom. How can that be? I need to earn more to fight the divorce lawsuit. A half-joking sentence. Julian turned from gloomy to sunny, happy as if winning the lottery. Until driving me to Yunmingport, his lips never suppressed the curve. Mr. He bought the house 4 years ago, why only now think of renovating? I wandered inside, examining the house structure, casually asking. The empty room, no response. Until I turned around. Julian stared at me dazedly, his expression dark. With inexplicable grievance. A strange feeling spread in my heart. Mr. He, have we met before? After saying it, I somewhat regretted. What kind of scumbag pickup lines are these? But the man's eyes quietly widened, filled with expectation. You remembered? Julian walked toward me, excited to hug me, but fearing overstep, his hands gripped my shoulders. Ah? I was shocked that I really knew Julian but didn't remember him. This reaction was seen by him, the light in Julian's eyes dimmed again. Tell me. Seeing him release his hands, I was anxious. Maybe if you say it, I'll remember. The man opened his mouth, but shook his head, looking somewhat dejected. Forget it, for your own good. A nonsensical sentence. I was almost tortured to death by curiosity. But no matter how I pestered him, even promising to design furniture for free, Julian wouldn't budge. For the first time, we parted unhappily. The next day, I took the divorce agreement to find Ethan. Just arriving downstairs at his company, I found everyone looking at me with strange eyes. That's her, the gold digger, stringing along our Mr. Ethan while keeping a lover outside. It said she used Mr. Ethan's money to get a room with a wild man. Hey, have you seen the video of her causing a scene at the wedding? Mr. Ethan has achieved fruition with his childhood sweetheart, and she still shamelessly asks for breakup fee. I couldn't hear clearly, wanted to walk over. But those women avoided me like the plague. Go away, who knows what dirty disease this woman has, don't infect me. The puzzle was solved when I reached Ethan's office door. The one I've always loved is Yara. Sophie, sigh, blame my soft heart, she threatened with the child in her belly, I had to marry her to appease her. I don't blame her for using my money to keep other men, I'm just worried how she'll explain to the future child. As for Yara, I'm very grateful that when she knew Sophie was scamming my money, she informed me timely and stood firmly by my side. I'll divorce Sophie as soon as possible and help her find the child's real father. Property division? I'll give their mother and child 1 million, just hoping she can turn back and reform. The door opened. The man on stage giving an emotional speech, upon seeing me, had 2 tears hanging on the verge of falling at his eye corners. The bitter expression froze on his face, mixed with guilt. I moved my lips, about to speak. Countless flashes suddenly shone on me. You're Miss Sophie, right? In the 21st century, still thinking of being a gold digger to scam money? No hands? Can't work yourself? May I ask if the child in your belly is really Mr. Ethan's? How many men have you been entangled with? Interfering in Mr. Ethan's relationship, causing a scene at the wedding demanding over 10 million breakup fee, doesn't your conscience hurt? The reporter's sharp questions surged like tides. Sarcasm, contempt, disdain. I clenched my fists, remembering their faces one by one. It does, I smiled and spoke. Taking advantage of the crowd's stun, I pushed aside and walked toward Ethan. But the one who should hurt is him. Ethan clutched his but wanting to run. But it was too late. I took off my high heel and smashed it on his head. No one came forward, everyone was pressing shutters to record the hot news. That night, I was on hot search again. Gold digger can't get money, flies into rage and beats sugar daddy. I sat at the computer desk, watched the previous hot search video. Most miserable CEO, forced to marry by gold digger, wanted to help critically ill lover fulfill wish, but wedding smashed, scum woman forces patient to die, extorts over 10 million from Mr. Ethan. The video was maliciously edited, only showing me triumphantly raising brows at Ethan, making him give me 13.14 million. Paired with the green tea's pale narration, I'm about to die. The whole net cursed me as mistress bitch, weeping over Ethan and Yara's poignant love. Even SS stocks kept hitting limits up. Child blown by the wind, forcing him to marry, keeping wild men. To add crimes, why worry about pretexts? Just didn't expect, knowing I was determined to divorce, Ethan would use such filthy means, profiting by stepping on my corpse. My heart was desolate. The light that once shone into my world bred evil. Click, save video. I quickly contacted lawyers to sue. But no matter how much I offered, no one took the case. Contacting the hotel, I wanted the wedding day surveillance. Ouch, Miss Sophie, you have so many men, blow some pillow talk, those sugar daddies would hand over the surveillance, why come personally? The female manager spoke sarcastically, blacklisted me without waiting for rebuttal. Midsummer evening breeze blew in from the window, cool, seeming to mock too. I sneered. Really careless, shouldn't believe the little green tea came back this time just to rob the wedding so simply. 4 years ago, graduation year. I just finished drawing design at client's home, returning to school. Dark alley, to take shortcut, I walked fearfully. Until footsteps behind got closer, scaring me to tears. Finally turned a corner, but found wrong into dead end. Several drunks carrying bottles, lecherous faces enlarged before me. I fought with taekwondo. But each tall and big, I had no chance. The second before being beaten down and fainting. I saw a figure. A boy in white shirt, anxiously running to protect me behind him. That day, we were rescued. But I temporarily lost sight due to eye injury. The sightless days reminded me of orphanage times. The dean always cursed us as money losers, can't attract sponsors. The helplessness and panic in darkness abruptly stopped upon hearing the neighboring boy's gentle, clear voice. What to fear, it's not blind forever. Weren't you brave fighting those men? Now why cry? Coward, don't fear, I'm here guarding you. The boy chattered, but really accompanied me long. The day before regaining sight, I asked his name. No response. I was anxious, hastily stood up. But only touched a small scar on the boy's hand back. He quickly withdrew, teasing me. Hey, the coward isn't cowardly at all, even learned to take liberties. The playful days were short. Until I opened my eyes. Hello, I'm Ethan. The voice made me frown, subconsciously looking at his hand. Small scar, no mistake. Later Ethan said he had a cold those days, so voice changed. I believed, pursued him fiercely. Gave the national award spot to him who was second, helped him gather startup funds. Later even used my connections, quietly pulled many clients for him. Sophie, you're really my lucky star. Whenever Ethan smiled praising me, I'd forget to ask why he no longer called me coward. Sophie, marry me, you bring me luck, I'll take care of you. Turns out, he married me just because I could provide resources. Once I no longer adored him, wanted to leave. He squeezed the last value from me. Ruthlessly destroying me. Coward, open the door. The familiar shout pulled me from memories to reality. Throwing away the wet towel, I walked toward the urgent knocking. Are you okay? Scared? Why not speak? The man's concerns entered my ears one by one, tension in eyes about to overflow. In blurred vision, Julian's face gradually overlapped with that night 4 years ago. What? I grabbed his hand, flipped it inward. A small scar hidden on the side of the handbag. Tears could no longer be held, smashing down. Why? Why was it you who saved me, accompanied me out of darkness, yet you refused to admit? Looking up, the man's lips opened and closed. After several entanglements, turned into a gentle smile. Good that you're okay. The soy milk is hot, be careful when drinking. The next day, getting up with walnut eyes, breakfast was already on the living room table. Julian's elegant handwriting carried ink fragrance, refreshing the mind. Picking fritter, I wanted to message him. But suddenly remembered Julian said last night, can't let Ethan see me coming to find you. An inexplicable feeling surged. Since Julian admitted he was the one who saved me, why didn't he acknowledge me back then? After thinking, I still sent the message. Me, involved in underworld? Julian, ? Me, involved in porn? Julian? Me, or are you a fugitive, caught when silencing? Julian? None. Then why did he let Ethan take his credit? The living room clock went round and round. Sun moved from east to west until moon hung on treetops. I wanted to go out for a walk, but just at the community gate. Quick, the gold digger is out. Someone shouted, suddenly from all directions surged many with vegetable baskets. They glared indignantly, throwing rotten eggs and vegetable leaves at me. Throwing while cursing. Some even shone laser pointers straight into my eyes. They were live streaming, I couldn't fight back. Just as I was forced to the poolside, about to fall. "What are you doing?" The man's furious voice came from outside the crowd. Then, bodyguards grabbed the troublemakers like chicks. Julian rushed to me, eyes red, veins bulging on hand back. "Forget it." I grabbed Julian's arm. Afraid 1 second later, he'd rush to beat them unrecognizable. But. "Call the police." Julian stunned for a moment. This reaction made me inexplicably smile. "What, you think I'm someone who wrongs myself?" Julian's eyes flickered, reached to rub my hair. But I inopportunely thought. If he hadn't touched a hand of rotten egg, this would be a very heart-fluttering hero saves beauty scene. Changed into clean clothes out, living room light still on. "This is the surveillance I got from the hotel, the dressing room is censored, can use directly." Julian placed a USB on the table, expression still angry. "This Yara, so scheming, I must find the best lawyer to send her to jail." Impulsively, I approached Julian. WH, what's wrong?" Seeing me staring straight, the man's ear tips quickly reddened. "Julian." His body immediately stiffened, like a called student. "Why can't let Ethan know you're helping me?" It's indeed late today, Sophie, rest early, I won't disturb." The man said, stood up, picked coat wanting to leave. I panicked, wanted to stop. But too forceful, directly caboted him on the sofa. Ambiguous pose, breaths intertwined. The person below blushed thoroughly, wanted to push me away, but seeing me in bathrobe, stiffened in midair nowhere to start. Both tense to at a loss. I suddenly remembered. During dating Ethan, he wasn't without wanting to go further. But every time that moment came, I'd inexplicably push away. Then I thought I was traditional, wanting to save first time for wedding night. But now it seems, probably heart more honest than body, better at recognizing. "Julian, tell me. I've already muddle-headedly missed you for 4 years. I don't want more regrets." But despite face held red, Julian wouldn't speak. I deflated. Hey, don't cry." Somehow, didn't cry when mistress ruined wedding. But now, seeing Julian's stubbornness, tears fell in handfuls. "Ouch, okay little ancestor, I'll say okay." Julian flustered used sleeve to wipe my tears, actions gentle. Remembering by Ethan's side, every tantrum I yielded, he never lowered stance. A big man, coaxing woman, what is that? I was PUA'd, almost forgetting, I too can be held in palms by others. Julian pressed me to sit on sofa, draped a thin blanket, then started telling. "That year saving you back to school, Ethan saw. He then to pull startup funds, used all methods, but short 50,000. So he found me, holding your." Julian paused, complexly looked at me. "I don't know him, what can he take from me?" Julian pursed lips, after deliberation, popped photos without clothes. "Nude photos?" A chill spread from Saul's. No wonder, one night after Julian cared for me and left. I thought infirmary empty, started changing. Then always felt heard shutter sound. But asking, only full room silence responded. Ethan's bottomless dirty operation shattered my worldview. Julian pried my clenched fingers, placed warm water in palm. He used photos to threaten, not let me tell you name, even forbid approaching you. I angrily pressed him to ground beating, demanding photos, but he said, each punch I give, he'll send photos to one more boy. I used all ways, even hired hacker to hack his phone computer, but he always had backups. Julian's face sank, gloomy eyes like knifing someone. "Not your fault." I sat beside Julian, gently patted his shoulder. Just like he encouraged me before. "The wrong is the scheming person, we're innocent." Julian looked at me. Long, bloomed relieved smile. "But, HS Group's so powerful, how repeatedly lose business to SS?" "Conscience, I was purely curious." Though Ethan's company is new, before century-old HS, not enough. The man, stunned by question, helplessly glanced at me. That look, like I betrayed him. Isn't it because you once told that guy, if startup fails, accompany him begging under overpass? Julian's expression agreed, then wouldn't I be reluctant to compete bids? Love brain quotes exposed, I embarrassed with no place to hide. Dejectedly sat on sofa, extremely guilty. No wonder every time Ethan won business and I clapped beside, I saw complex pain in Julian's eyes. Sorry. Humph, little blind. Julian mouth said not forgive, but that Sundara with happy expression betrayed him. Evidence ready, I prepared to report to police. Before that, I found Yara. At that time, she was live streaming, selling goods on last wedding's heat. After entering, I wordlessly cut power. Are you sick? Can't you see I'm live? Yara shrieked, angry, almost spitting fire. Dare not, the sick one is you, how dare I rob you? You curse me? Where, didn't you say yourself terminal illness, not long to live? Yara choked, wanted to hit me. I sidestepped, backhanded slapped her. Pleasant sound rang, I smiled gazing at her. Turns out terminal ill people so energetic, hey, which hospital you saw, effect so good, truly medical miracle, not making you specimen for research is pity. I'd sked sighing, Yara's face blacker. PS photos, say I keep men and pregnant, guide fans cyberbully, leak my address. These, enough for you to stay in prison a while? Hee, Yara stood, laughed arrogantly, so what if I did? You loser who can't even keep a man, what evidence to accuse me? Those netizens really idiots, I just sold misery, they crazily blocked you, rotten eggs tasty? Ha ha ha. If smart, hurry give brother Ethan's wife position. Well said. I clapped, revealed the mini camera behind. Yara's pupils shocked, face wish pale. Don't look, I interrupted her, checking power behind. Sync live, your bold words, forwards already over 10 million. Yara shook head, wanting to quibble. But I already on way, put Julian's video of her bribing doctor, and full wedding scene, all online. Truth revealed, netizens used as tools passionately spoke. F*CK, I was incited by mistress to cyberbully the wife? Yara right, good, I'm nearby, not beat her once my name upside down. Help. I just threw rotten egg at sister yesterday, I'm guilty, going to beg forgiveness now. More people forwarded, even rushed to SS group leaving messages. Scumbag come out. Actually stripped bride's dress to wear on mistress, in ancient times, you'd be caned to death. So disgusting, scumbag and mistress cooperating to eat human blood buns. Slandering wife as gold digger, clearly own cheating but wronging other, I see the dirtiest is you. Fuck, such person really shames us men, castrate him, see if still arrogant. Ethan probably watched live, now crazily calling me. I answered, before his roar, sent him, go to prison, slaughter scum. Julian found strongest lawyer. Ethan detained for secret shooting, rumor, slander. Netizens stronger, directly dug Ethan's financial fraud, business fiction issues. Suddenly, SS shareholders fled and scattered, company became shell, value plummeted. And Ethan from detention to fixed-term imprisonment. Before jail, I applied to see him once more. Seeing Julian appear behind me, Ethan anxiously stood. Good you, team up against me. Wait, see when I out not. Shut up. I slapped his face. Photo threat, rob others credit, make me love wrong person 4 years. I was really blind liking you scum. Ethan tongue-cheek, unwilling look. You're just climbed Julian high branch, what qualify to criticize me? If not me, you'd never live good life. Turns out he always thought I was buying relying on men. You monthly 200K person, where time to worry about monthly 2 million persons thing? Julian mockingly glanced him. Walked over, opened phone. Sophie, MH Design Company CEO. Who gave you confidence thinking she can't live without you? Will only live better. Ethan like struck by lightning, widened eyes trying to find Julian P.S. evidence. Let's go, saying one more word to idiot I feel unlucky. I pulled Julian's hand. No matter how Ethan repented roared behind, no longer looked back. Oh right, before Yara caught, some episodes. Her using me for sympathy quick money angered hackers. That hacker hacked her account, transferred all savings, donated to Women's Foundation. Also, her address found. Angry netizens spontaneously smashed her home, threw rotten eggs at her, walls written full of mistress etc. big words. More extreme, day before caught, a stubborn woman lived top mistress. Said that person is professional mistress teacher. Just appeared, pressed Yara on wall, forcefully stripped her clothes. Wearing so much, have some worries? So like robbing others' clothes, you have no clothes? Kneel naked here repent. Though live urgently stopped, netizens called satisfying. As for photos. Julian and I turned Ethan's place upside down, no suspicious USB. To be safe, I burned the house. If he outsues you? You don't know. I looked up, glanced at burned black walls and endless ash on ground. Somewhat heartbroken. This house, he rented. That sucker charging little rent, I pointed to myself. Julian helplessly smiled. Good too. The man turned, walked out. Old not go, new not come. Late summer wind blew Julian's hem. The boy in white shirt like 4 years ago, still dazzling. I jogged to catch up, actively held the man's hand. Julian stunned, from shock, to surprise, to joy dyeing brows. Together. The man smiled, beautiful eyes only my figure. Julian gripped hand tightly. Good. For years misplaced, luckily, you're still by my side.